It's a sweltering Tuesday morning in District 7, Ho Chi Minh City. Inside a sleek, modern office, a digital marketer sits staring at a dual monitor setup, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. For the past 3 hours, she's been logging between a spreadsheet tracking social media engagement and an open tab of a generative AI tool. The brand's feed is filled with immaculate, high-resolution product photos, crisp Canva templates, and perfectly polished promotional reels. Every post is grammatically flawless and optimized for the algorithm. Yet, the comment section is a ghost town. The only notification is a generic comment from a bot. She hits refresh, hoping for a spike in views, but the metric barely moves. It's the classic corporate dilemma. The content is professional, expensive, and completely hollow. Meanwhile, just a few kilometers away, in a bustling district cafe, an independent small business owner is having a completely different morning. Her phone is buzzing continuously with notifications from a private Facebook group she built from scratch without a single dollar of ad spend. She doesn't have a team of copywriters or a high-end production budget. Instead, an hour ago she posted a raw, unedited photo from a laptop showing a logistical mistake that cost her a client the previous day, along with a candid paragraph about how difficult the week has been. By noon, that single imperfect post will generate 3 times the engagement of her standard promotional announcements. While the corporate brand spends thousands trying to look flawless, the independent owner has tapped into the most valuable currency in modern digital marketing: raw human authenticity. This stark contrast highlights a growing crisis across Southeast Asia's digital landscape. As artificial intelligence makes it easier than ever to produce sleek copy and polished visuals, audiences are becoming profoundly jaded. Consumers can spot an AI-generated paragraph or a manufactured corporate script from a mile away, and they are actively turning against it. In an era of automated perfection, the traditional marketing playbook of presenting an aspirational, flawless facade is no longer working. The brands that are thriving are the ones willing to pull back the curtain, humanize their message, and show the chaotic, real-life reality behind the finished product. I'm Neil Mackay, the founder of 7 Million Bikes podcast and Saigon Podcast Studio, and this is Vietnam Content Marketing. In this episode, I sit down with Amy Wenham, the founder of the Women's Business Network. We explore her journey of building a thriving community entirely through organic word of mouth, the hidden traps of relying too heavily on AI for your brand's voice, and why showing your business's real challenges can triple the audience engagement. This episode is sponsored by Saigon Podcast Studio, premium podcast recording space right in the heart of District 1 Saigon. Whether you're launching your first show, recording interviews, or creating professional audio and video content, Saigon Podcast Studio gives you the space, equipment, and support to sound and look your best. Come by for a free tour of the studio and see where your next great episode could be recorded. The link is in the show notes. Let's start like we do in every episode with the rapid fire questions. Number 1, what is the best piece of content marketing advice you've ever been given?
Be authentic. If it doesn't feel right inside, don't post it.
Number 2, worst piece of content marketing advice you've ever been given?
If you do X, Y, and Z, you will go viral in 30 days.
Next one, what is the only metric that matters to you?
Engagement. I'd rather have 100 followers all engaged on the piece of content than 10,000 that don't react.
And if somebody was starting next week with zero budget, what's one piece of advice you would give to them?
Again, just be authentic. Just post what you know. Make sure you know your customer and what they're looking for, and just talk to that.
And last one, podcasts. Great for content marketing. Why or why not?
Absolutely great. I think the best thing about podcasts now is that you can cut one big piece of content up into several different pieces for all different types of social media. So you're killing sort of 10 birds with one stone. It's brilliant.
Now, you built the Women's Business Network mostly through word of mouth. No big ad spend, no big budget. How did you actually get your first members?
I actually had zero budget. I've not spent a single dollar on marketing. Every single thing has been through my Facebook group. The whole concept has come from creating a private Facebook group and then working with other Facebook groups in this region to kind of draw people in. So as a brand new business, a brand new group, I obviously was trying to get in touch with people that had, and there was groups here that had a lot more following. So it was just commenting in there to say, any female business owners that would like to meet up for a coffee. And it all just organically grew from there. So the group started, my very first event, I had 23 people in the group. Now we're on over 900 and something now. So yeah. All organic, not a single dollar spent. So Facebook groups, especially in this region, because Facebook is still, I think, king in terms of social media. It's a really great tool.
So zero budget, what was your content marketing strategy back then?
Again, I think the flow was obviously having the Facebook group and connecting with other Facebook groups that were established here. But then in terms of strategy, it was very much just knowing who the members were and what they were looking for and talking to that. Like I said, I only got Facebook, I think, 8 months ago, and we established in 2023. So it was literally only Facebook group, and it was doing polls inside the group. It was really trying to develop that engagement as much as possible. I wasn't bothered about fancy reels or, super pretty assets that I've made on Canva and things like that. It really was just doing as much as I could to encourage conversation. Events, so you can create events inside the Facebook group. So it's very organic like that. I was really trying to develop that sense of community, but using this private Facebook group.
And so what did you notice gave the best engagement?
I would say the best forms of engagement have always been the real stories, the stuff that kind of when it goes wrong or, the tough parts. Anytime I've gone into the group, I often go live. So I'll just speak to the members directly, or I might do a quick reel or something, or just a long form post. Every single time I'm talking about a challenge, the response is just completely different than if I'm just sharing information. So a lot of the time, you're sharing information about events and about trainings and workshops. You don't really get much engagement from that because it's just informative. But when I talk about the things that have gone wrong or the challenges that the company's having that week, me personally, both as a business owner, but as people that know me, the engagement just triples. It's crazy.
Wow.
People really want that authenticity. It's just everything I do is all using that word, and it works.
And we talked about this before, and I did a small post recently on our Dallo community, which is 100 people or so now, not massive. But every now and again, I'll post pictures from the studio. And because we talked about this recently, I wrote a post, and then I just thought, and I basically showed off how we got this new setup. And I just had this thought, I'm just going to add one line at the end to say how difficult it was. Because you look at it, and I'm very much a positive mental attitude kind of person. Like, look at this is amazing. So it's not so natural for me to do that. And I know it has worked for us in the past. We've done it on LinkedIn. People love transformation stories. I've shown pictures of me 20 kgs lighter, look like I'm dying. I'm literally so thin. And people really respond to that. So I guess I do know it, but I forget about it. And so I did this post, picture of the new setup, and I just had the thing to remember to say how difficult it was. And I just added, looks amazing, took hours to set up. Because this, again, once things are finished, and I always say this here in the studio as well, once things are working, and I think it's the same in everything, it looks so easy. It looks like it took no time at all. And I think that's sometimes why people don't maybe value as well what you do. People are always trying to get discounts here. They're always trying to undercut you, get lower prices, which I get. It's fine. I'm Scottish. I'll have to get a discount as well. But what people don't see is me sitting on the floor here for hours figuring out why the cables aren't working or figuring out why this won't attach together. having to get extra people and friends in to set all of this up. These black panels alone, just sticking them on, took hours and hours. So just adding that on, I did notice I got the most engagement I'd had in the longest time. Way more than just me saying, hey, look at my pretty studio. It works.
Because I think people can see the real life of it and the reality. As you say, you show all the good bits of the studio and what you're doing, and it's aspirational to a lot, but it's out of reach for a lot of people to be like, I couldn't do that. I don't understand how. You don't think to understand how you got there. But when you actually share the story of you sitting on the floor and sorting out cables or taking hours to set a paneling system up, it kind of humanizes the content. I think we're all so jaded by content in general because there's just so much. You're just flooded with it every second of the day. And I mean, the statistic of it takes 3 seconds to either capture or, be forgettable. So capturing that human element of it always is just, you notice the difference in reactions and engagements for sure.
And I'm laughing right now. You can see me smiling, and I'll explain why. I actually do have a lot of content I probably don't use. I remember doing a time lapse. So this big light that you can see right here, again, looks super simple. It's a light. That took me so long just to get the shade on, and I could show you the time lapse. And it was me, because it's like an umbrella lattice, and I could not figure out how it worked, and I couldn't figure out how to attach, and I couldn't figure out how to get the thing around it. And there's a video of me with the time lapse, and honestly, I was getting so angry. And I guess the things people don't see is me getting annoyed, me getting angry, frustrated. They're like, fuck, this just
you should post that.
It looks so simple when it's finished. It's just like a light with a lattice around it.
Well, I think it's not even it looks so simple. It's just a light. It's like people don't think who's built it. It's just a light in the studio. But when you should post that. I guarantee you'll get a very good reaction and be like, this is the day in my life, guys.
Yeah.
It's taken me hours to set a lamp up. Like, what's going?
And I had several days like that in the beginning as well. So I do love the compliments for the studio are amazing. And I do think back to that, and I think I forget sometimes, and then I'm reminded, man, the first few weeks was just me in here by myself, figuring things out, getting all these cables and everything, and continually getting better. We're always getting more stuff, more backgrounds, more cables, things like this. I
think as well for me, like with, obviously with the community. So my customer, if you will, is the community and what I provide. And I always found with that, I think I know what people want, but it's really developed over the years of listening and talking about what I think's working. That we've done a lot of things, especially recently, the last few months, put on different workshops and different trainings based on feedback that we've got from the community itself. But then the second we put it up, people don't have time, or so it's always constantly kind of chopping and changing and seeing what, reacting to that. But I think the more you can listen to your customer and the more you can listen to your community and see what they want, whether it's a service or a product, it doesn't matter what the actual, end business is, being just completely dedicated to what you think your customer needs and asking those questions back all the time really helps for sure.
So you've worked with global and luxury brands, and you now advise SMEs here in Vietnam. What are SMEs doing for content marketing?
I think, honestly, in general, at the moment in this region, I like to say they're quite transactional. So if they're a retail brand, for example, they've got this range of shoes, let's say, and it's very much here's a video of the shoes, here's a picture of the shoes. There's not really much else to it, I've noticed. It's quite, I call it transactional. This is my product, buy it. And especially in today's world, my time in luxury retail, they had millions of dollars budget to be able to put in their marketing to get it out there. And they also have 10, 20, 30, 100 years of brand loyalty. So any new product that goes out with a big brand like that, they can, absolutely, it's a lot easier for them to sell. Whereas SMEs, you need to build that brand loyalty first. And I do think it's missed a little bit here. So when I say transactional, it's like, here's my product, buy it. From a messaging perspective on their socials, but actually it really needs to be who's the customer and what are they looking for? What's going to stand your brand out, your shoe brand out from the others out there? And it's really developing that brand loyalty, which is going to which is going to change the game for you.
So from your experience, can you give an example of an SME that you've seen get content marketing right?
I wouldn't necessarily say any particular sort of business, but one thing I've noticed, especially in this region, the F&B industry are nailing their content marketing at the moment. You know, whether they're a little coffee shop in District 7 or whether they're a chain of restaurants across the city, I've seen such a really cool array of different pieces of content, whether it's, you know, being creative with their reels and making, you know, your simple cafe sourdough become this, you know, absolutely amazing thing that people want to be a part of. So I would definitely say as a generalization, the F&B industry for sure is nailing it at the moment. So I would definitely, I've done a lot of research myself and looked at that, of how we can kind of tie that in. It's obviously slightly different because it's a product based, you know, they're selling a coffee or a drink or something. But again, they've really nailed that transformational content. So this is the other thing. If you've got a product, you've got a coffee, just posting a picture or a reel of your made coffee on the desk doesn't actually make it stand out. But the pieces of content that I've seen where you've got like the bartender at the back, shaking up a cocktail, and then it kind of like time lapses and like jumps through, and then all of a sudden it's this theatrical cocktail that's appeared, or other people that are, you know, baristas that are behind, you know, with the coffee machine and everything like that. So you're showcasing the transformation from your drink, your cafe sourdough, your cocktail, your food that we all know and eat and drink every single day, but showing that before and after. The F&B industry are really nailing it at the moment.
And you've given me such inspiration there, because I'm thinking we can make this content here from, I've got videos from when we moved in, from what it looked like, from me struggling to put a light together.
Up today, you should have like a camera that's literally just setting up videoing, because people don't know the amount of detail and the effort that goes in, making sure that none of the cables are touched and you know, all of that stuff. I've been watching you today. I'm like, I could not do it. I come in and you've got this perfect studio that's ready to go. But seeing what you go through to get to this amazing studio makes it much more like real. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's so I'm part of it. I might be watching it, but I feel like I'm part of the journey, you know. So if you've got that content, you should definitely, before and afters are a winner.
You can even share how you actually saw me getting frustrated.
Pulling out a cable, I was like, you okay? You were like, this is me getting angry now.
Just for context, I don't get angry very easily or frustrated
I've
at all.
never seen you get angry before. I was like, that was a very whip of the cable coming out of the camera.
Like the tiniest, just little like, threw the cable away like flippantly because it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And you made a reaction. I was like, you know, that's probably as much as you'll ever see me getting frustrated or flustered. But today was a good example. Normally, we like it, people come in and they just see it perfect. That's what I want. I want people to come in and just have the experience. You got here, we weren't set up properly, we weren't ready. And it's the kind of things. So what went wrong today was the 3 pieces of equipment that we've never had an issue with before, ever in a year, just wouldn't turn on. Normally, we literally just plug them in and they come on. Like any piece of electrical equipment, suddenly today, doing the exact same thing we've done 100 times, and it wouldn't turn on. And
no reason for it as well, which is the worst.
We're switching plugs, we're switching different things, and we're like, I still don't know why it didn't work. But thankfully, eventually we got it to work. But that was part of the stress, was this should just work.
But I feel as well, like in terms of the conversation we're having now, it seems just a lot more rested and relaxed, you know, because we're all kind of in it together, just getting a bit stressed trying to get it all done. And now, you know, the conversation just flows, even nicer
Very
as well.
True. So where do you think the SMEs are losing money?
I think because they're not investing in marketing, they're losing money everywhere. I know it sounds crazy, but, you know, as I said before, these big brands will spend 30-40% of their budgets, annual budgets, monthly budgets, on marketing their product. And unfortunately, this isn't just here. I've seen it a lot here, but overall SMEs don't want to spend, or don't think that, because they can't see an immediate ROI. So they're like, well, you know, I can't spend money on my marketing budget to get my brand out there. So I'm not going to. So they're losing money because their loyal customer can't see them, you know, and honestly, you need to shout from the rooftops on a daily basis directly to your customer. I would say there are many brands here also that don't know their customer. They think they do, but or if they do know them, they're not talking to them directly. They're kind of talking to everybody and not reaching anybody. So I would say really not understanding their customer is leaving money on the table for sure. And then with that, not investing in their marketing budget to be able to talk to that customer.
Now, you mentioned at the beginning that authenticity is so important. And I know that you've posted that when you started the Women's Business Network that you didn't feel authentic. When did you start to feel like your content was actually you?
I don't know if there was a particular post. I think it was more of a transition, but I think that there must have been a time where I was exasperated, I think, with something and must have just posted something imperfect. And as I said, the engagement to that was such a wake-up call to be like, okay, people don't want to see this perfect, polished version of Amy. And I think when I do my in-person events, there is this sort of profile that I put up because I always do a speech, I always talk, I'm, hosting this event. So I always feel like there's that element of profile, I guess, to put. However, when I'm in these events itself, I think that was the change. When I go to these events, I host them and I'm talking to the community. And as I said, I always do a speech to welcome we have newcomers every single month. So I always sort of give a brief overview of what WBN is and what Coffee and Connect is, etc. And I always, because I've made the effort to know my community, I feel like I'm just talking to my friends. So I don't feel nervous when I'm talking in this group setting. But I think when I was behind the camera, because it was just me in my house setting up with my tripod and everything, and then I was recording it 15 times because, I said something wrong or I didn't like the way my face looked in whatever particular frame. And then I remember just thinking, like, you don't do this, you don't stop and start when you're in person at these community, you just talk. If you get it wrong, you just laugh it off. Like, that's one thing I'm quite good at doing. I'm like, oh, sorry guys, like probably waffled a bit a bit too long then. So I think when I started trying to imagine myself, even when I was at home, imagine myself in Coffee and Connect and after I was one of these networking events that I host, I remembered that they may not be looking at my face, but they're looking at me through the camera. And that was what I think changed a lot for me, for sure. But there was such at the beginning this feeling of can't get it wrong. I'm the face of WBN. And I don't like saying that because WBN is bigger than me. But at the beginning, it relied on me to be really present and really there. It shifted into something else now. But I feel there was I had an expectation of myself to act a certain way and to be a certain way. But I was never really doing that in person. People knew me and I was laughing and it was very informal. And I always promote this sort of non-corporate stuffy. We don't do that. It's like, come on in, bring your kids. If you can't get a babysitter, like come for an hour, whatever. So when I started to remember that when I was at home, creating that content, whether it was me talking or whether it was creating an asset or whatever, reel or whatever, it changed for sure.
Are we in danger right now of losing that authenticity with the rise of AI?
Yes.
Yes, because I know I've created posts obviously using AI. Then you give it a prompt or whatever, and it comes back. And I've literally written in, that's way too salesy. Like, I don't talk like that. And you have to be like, do it in my voice. And even then, sometimes I've just scrapped it and been like, I'm just going to write it myself.
Right at the beginning. One thing AI is good for is giving you copy, for sure. Like, if you're not very good at writing, it is great for that. But it is so insincere. It's so inauthentic. I can read AI from a mile off now in terms of the copy that you get.
And we can see it as well.
Oh my God.
When you see a poster now, you're like, oh, AI slop.
Literally. And I think there's only so much prompting you can ask it. Talk more like me and talk more like a human. It's not built like that. It's built to provide copy. And the other thing as well, I was spending so much time for a long time getting frustrated that AI wasn't giving me what I wanted. It's like, you're not talking like me. And I'm like, well, why would it? It's an AI chatbot. So the minute I then started putting my own text and just saying, just make this grammatically correct. Because my challenge is my grammar isn't great when I'm writing. I know
many
that.
native speakers are.
I read people's here and I'm like, oh, I should be ashamed of myself. But so I put all of that in. I'm like, just make it concise. Keep it in my own voice. in terms of, because I've already given it to you. And I think that is where a lot of people things are starting to get lost in terms of content marketing now, especially because people are getting lazy. They're like, oh, I'll just give it to ChatGPT or give it to Gemini or whoever you use. And it spills out this stuff. And then you're reading it and you're like, oh, another thing, it's gone too far past it now. And that's where authenticity is being lost. You're relying on this system, which is a great tool. Don't get me wrong, I use it every day. It's a great tool, but it shouldn't replace your voice. And that is what is definitely happening at the moment.
So if you do make the leap to not using AI, you're going to be your authentic self, but you don't want to be performative. And I know I've been guilty of that. I always worry about that. Am I putting this on? Am I faking it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the balance between doing an authentic post and not being performative?
I mean, there's different tools you can use to help you with that, because a lot of people feel like I need to have my script in front of me, especially if you're doing a talking reel, for example, and you're giving information. It's hard because you're not used to necessarily being in front of the camera and, you keep looking at notes and everything like that. People want to see the human element. So you looking at the screen and then looking down at your notes to see what you're writing is absolutely fine. And there's other tools that you can use, other apps and programs that can help you with it. Here's one thing that I have to remind myself every day, but I'm pretty good at remembering now. People are far too worried about what they're thinking of themselves to worry about what they think of you. So all of that stress that you have about performing and being a certain way, looking a certain way and articulating yourself, people don't see it. They're too wrapped up in their own stuff. So as long as you can keep remembering that, you'll start to care less of making it look perfect and performing. And that's really, really helped me along the way over the years, even in my, corporate luxury retail days. I was like, these guys, everyone's just far too busy thinking about themselves. Like, we're all selfish beings. Like, we're too big. And it proves that, because you're too worried about being performative and being right and making this piece of content perfect. And your customers just won't see it. Like, they're just not going to see it at all. So don't worry about it.
So how can a podcast fit into that style of content marketing?
So for me, what I love about podcasting is the authenticity of it. Yes, you've got the editing skills and you've got all of that side of things. But I think that's why it's been so popular as is it a genre? I don't know if you call it a medium. Because it encourages authentic talk, it encourages information. It's not, here's my presentation, look at what's happening. It's an exchange of conversation, or even if you're just doing one on your own, you're talking and it's a lot less formal. And I think, to me, that is what content needs to be now. Like I say, I've said the word so many times today, the word authenticity is like my mantra. But podcasting does that. You're sitting having a conversation, like I say, whether it's an interview style, and you're just having a chat. It might be an hour, it might be 2, it might be half an hour, but you're just having like an honest, informative conversation with someone. But then when you go from a marketing perspective, you've got dozens of touch points to be able to get your service in front of other people in these little snippets and longer forms. There's different ways that you can do it. And one thing I just love, podcasting is all about talking and your authentic self, whether you are representing a business or whether you're representing yourself. I think with what you do, it's your business, but it's you. And people tune in to hear what you have to say, and then it all ties in with your brand.
And I think this is why podcasting for me is much, much better than something like TED Talks, right? TED Talks were amazing. They're still amazing, but they are very performative. Like, I know I've met people who are TED Talk coaches.
Yep.
And they will coach every part of your talk, your presentation, and help you present it to TED Talks so that then they pick you. And then what you give on stage is a performance, and it's fine. You maybe have some nugget of wisdom that you want to share with somebody, but it's far from an authentic conversation.
Well, it's like a play. You're almost like an actor. You're not an actor, but you almost are. You're sitting there to provide information about whatever the topic is. But there's no that two-way, a load of people come to watch and there's one person talking and there's no room for necessarily that exchange. Podcasting is all about exchange of energy, exchange of information. And that's what makes it so desirable, I think. And it should be part of everybody's marketing content strategy, especially now as it's growing. So yeah, that's the great thing about it. It literally does all the heavy lifting for you. And all you're doing is talking about the thing that you love, which is your business or your product or your service. And we all love talking about things that we love, right? And especially your business, it's like a child half the time. You put so much effort and energy and tears, blood, sweat into it. So to be able to talk about it, you love to. I love talking about WBN at any opportunity I can. And being able to do it in an authentic exchange of information way, like this, for example, just takes that performance out and it just keeps it humble and it keeps it realistic and authentic.
And so when you start the WBN podcast, which I know is coming soon, who is your ideal guest?
My members, for sure, to start with. They've built it. The whole point of WBN is to give these small businesses a platform to support with their own marketing. So definitely my start with my community first. But I also want to speak to, it won't just, obviously the main focus will be the women in this region, but I want to be able to speak to all people that have got a good story to tell about their time in business, especially here in Ho Chi Minh. But for me, the podcast will be a way to support the growth of the community, but also to support the growth of the members inside. It's their own, they can come and join and they've got their own marketing strategy from it and all their content for them as well. And that was exactly what WBN was built on, is providing resources and support and places for women that are either just setting up, have set up or are scaling, even women that are in corporate here that are looking to, build their profile, etc. It is a space, that's what WBN is about. And the WBN podcast will just be an extension of that. And we're actually going to be giving them content to use, which doesn't happen very often here. So
awesome. Well, Amy, all the best with the future of WBN and the WBN podcast, which I'm excited for you to get started. And thank you for joining us on Vietnam Content Marketing.
Thank you for having me.